The rough plastic grazed her neck. Every breath reminded her that this thing could kill her. She tried not to move, not to cry, not to look at anyone. The collar was carefully assembled, each screw and wire placed with the precision of a silent threat. Elvia Cortés, a Colombian farmer who spent her days caring for her home, her animals, and her land, couldn't understand why she had been chosen. She had never hurt anyone. But that morning, evil had found her. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. If you enjoy uncovering real stories that few dare to tell, subscribe to this channel right now. Join us each week as we explore the darkest and most forgotten corners of history. Don't go anywhere. Stay until the end, because what you're about to hear will shake you to your core. Elvia Cortés lived in a small rural area near the town of Chiquinquirá in Boyacá, Colombia. She was a humble, hard-working woman, used to the silence of the countryside and the roughness of the soil. With her husband, she had raised her children, never in luxury, but always with dignity. Their kids had grown up, studied, and become professionals. They weren't rich, but they had achieved what so many in rural Colombia dream of: progress earned through sacrifice. No one could understand why anyone would want to hurt them. It was May 15th, 2000. At 4 in the morning, Elvia and her husband woke up as usual. They made a simple breakfast and prepared for another day's work. But the day would turn into a nightmare. Before sunrise, 4 armed men appeared on the dirt road. They threatened the couple at gunpoint, their tone leaving no room for questions. They demanded 15 million pesos, about $13,800 today. They warned them not to alert the authorities. They had until 5 that afternoon. If they didn't pay, the collar would explode. The couple pleaded that they had no money, but the men didn't care. Before leaving, the group left behind a tape with a chilling message. Attention, everyone. What the lady has around her neck is a bomb collar. Do not try to deactivate it. You are not in control. Do not alert the authorities, or your entire family will pay with death, and death will be a mercy. We'll contact you to arrange the payment of 15 million pesos. They left them there, alone, surrounded by silence and fear. With that thing pressed against her skin, a device made of PVC tubes, wires, and black tape, built with terrifying precision. The desperation wasn't only about the money. It was about knowing that death could come at any moment, and that there was almost no way out. In the early 2000s, Colombia was living through one of the most violent periods in its modern history. Armed groups fought for territory, for control, and for power through fear. Extortion had become part of daily life. Letters, phone calls, threats. Even the quietest villages weren't safe. And Boyacá, though far from the major war zones, wasn't immune. Small communities like La Palestina began to feel the reach of that conflict. And in that atmosphere of tension, any family could become a target. Even one like Elvia's, peaceful, hardworking, innocent. Time passed relentlessly. Each minute brought Elvia closer to 5 o'clock. She and her husband went door to door, desperate to find help. They begged their neighbors to lend them money, but the entire community was poor. No one had that kind of money. 15 million pesos, today about $13,800. But back then, the equivalent of more than 50 monthly minimum wages, an impossible amount. A cruel demand for 2 farmers who had never harmed anyone. As the hours passed, Desperation turned to resignation. They realized they couldn't face it alone. They decided to call the authorities. An emergency operation was launched. Among those who arrived was a man whose name would forever be tied to this story. Bomb technician Jairo Lopez, one of the country's most experienced experts. His mission was clear: to save an innocent woman's life. Elvia was taken to a makeshift military base on the outskirts of Chiquinquirá. Surrounded by soldiers, weapons, and cameras, she sat completely still on a wooden chair, pale and exhausted. She had been trapped like that for hours, endless hours, bearing the weight of fear. She couldn't move, couldn't tremble, couldn't even breathe too deeply. Any mistake could trigger the bomb. Her body ached, her muscles cramped, her mind was drowning in exhaustion. The soldiers tried to keep her calm. They spoke softly, called her ma'am, smiled at her with their eyes, even though their voices trembled. They knew her emotional state was crucial. Then, technician Jairo Lopez stepped forward. He didn't wear the usual heavy bomb suit. He didn't want to frighten her. He wanted her to trust him. "Stay calm, Doña Elvia," he said softly. "We're going to get you out of this." Beside him, another soldier continuously poured water on her neck to keep the bomb from overheating or sparking. Every movement was deliberate. Every second mattered. Hours passed. The air was thick with tension. Each sound, the tools, the radios, the breath, felt amplified. Her family watched from behind the cordon, praying, unable to look away. Every piece removed brought a flicker of hope. Finally, after so many hours, Elvia managed to smile. Just a faint, trembling smile, but it was hope. And for a moment, everyone believed she might make it. The sun began to set. The fatigue was visible on every face. One of the soldiers, exhausted and hungry, whispered to Jairo, "I'm going to take a short break, just 5 minutes." Jairo nodded, still focused. The soldier walked barely 10 meters away when it happened. A deafening explosion tore through the air. Time froze. The earth shook. Then came the screams, confusion, panic, disbelief. The bomb had exploded. Elvia's head was gone, part of her shoulders torn apart. She died instantly. Jairo, the man who had refused the bomb suit to give her comfort, lost an arm and was bleeding out fast. The soldier who had poured water on her neck lost 3 fingers. The one who had stepped away survived with only bruises. In seconds, hope turned into horror. The silence that followed was unbearable. The kind of silence that doesn't bring peace, only guilt. That day, the small village of Boyacá became the center of a national tragedy. The day Colombia cried. The wounded were evacuated immediately. A helicopter landed in a storm of dust and chaos, rushing them to Bogotá's Central Military Hospital. But Jairo Lopez didn't make it. He bled out on the way. Just months before, he had gotten married. He had a wife full of dreams and small children waiting for him at home. Now, they were left alone. A widow, a family shattered, and a country mourning a hero. The investigation began. At first, the president blamed the guerrilla group FARC, but their commander publicly denied any involvement, declaring that such acts go against our principles, and pointing out that their forces were far from that region. Soon after, the president corrected himself. New evidence pointed toward a local criminal gang, extorting farmers across Boyacá and Santander. It had nothing to do with politics or war, just greed. Police later recalled a similar case. Another farmer had reported being threatened with a bomb collar weeks earlier. and one of Elvia's relatives remembered a man in the village who had once said, "Making a device like that is easy. Anyone could do it." That comment would lead investigators straight to the culprit, Jose Miguel Suarez, a common criminal, member of a local extortion ring. The case shocked Colombia, not only for its brutality, but for what it revealed, that even far from the war zones, violence had learned new ways to destroy lives. Years later, the memory of the bomb collar remains an open wound, a symbol of a time when horror didn't need a battlefield to exist. The story of Elvia Cortés wasn't just a tragedy. It was a reminder that evil can wear a familiar face, that injustice can disguise itself as desperation, and that sometimes the most innocent souls pay for a nation's sins. This case marked a before and after in Colombia's criminal history. And even though the scars may fade, the echo of that day still drifts through the hills of Boyacá, like a whisper no one wants to hear, but everyone remembers. The day a collar became a sentence. And that's how this story ends. A story so real, so cruel, it almost feels impossible. If you made it this far, subscribe now to not miss the next case. Because here, every story reminds us that horror doesn't always need fiction to exist.